Thanks, Deputy Presiding Officer. This is a Conservative Party-initiated debate, and it was Ruth Davidson who said on the formation of her Independent Commission for Competitive and Fair Taxation, I quote, "We need to start thinking big. As the new powers come to the Parliament, we need to send out a big, bold message through our political choices." February the 24th, 2015. And this one-line motion is the result. Is this it? This denial of devolution, this negation of the right to be different, to dare to be different, to stand up to austerity, to properly invest in public services, properly invest in the economy? This is not bold and big. This is small-minded and timorous. Yes.
Mr Lockhart.
We just make it clear, our motion says families in Scotland should not be taxed more than elsewhere in the UK. We're very happy for tax in Scotland to be lower than the rest of the UK.
Well,
Mr Leonard.
There we have it. There we have it. Because it is part of an ideology which we should be familiar with. Once again, the only industrial policy, the only economic programme of the Conservative Party is a tax cut. This is not a serious policy for jobs and growth. It is a recipe for inequality and division. It is a recipe for unemployment and disinvestment. Under the Tories, we, and I don't mean Scotland, I mean the working people of this shared island, we are part of an experiment. It is an experiment in which we are wrenched out of the European Union, plunged deeper into an ocean of austerity, in which the currents are engineered to hit hardest, to drag under the most vulnerable in our society, the ones who are least able to bear it. And not only does this fiscal imperative corrode the very threads of the social fabric which bind us together, worse, it is a dismal economics which sets out to redistribute the nation's wealth, not from each according to their means, to each according to their needs, but from each according to their poverty, to each according to their wealth. It is an ideology which demands that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, modelled on a failed trickle-down economics, built on quicksand foundations of self-interest and selfism, not strong foundations of social cohesion and solidarity. So that is why the Labour Party is prepared to act, because it's no good talking about the politics of anti-austerity or the construction of an anti-austerity alliance whilst in opposition. When in government, you must stand by those principles too, and not simply pass austerity on. And let me say this, we didn't campaign all those years in the Labour and Trades Union movement and in wider civic Scotland through the Scottish Constitutional Convention to create a Scottish Parliament which would simply be a conveyor belt for Tory policies and Tory austerity. Quite the opposite. We campaigned for a Scottish Parliament to be a bulwark against Tory policies, a bulwark against Tory austerity, to find, as Jackie Baillie said, Scottish solutions to Scottish problems. Now, the SNP has said that it wants to forge its taxation policies according to the principles of Adam Smith. But as the Poverty Alliance has pointed out in its briefing for this debate, and I quote, "It is surprising that the principles suggested for Scottish taxation do not mention fairness." Well, I agree with the Poverty Alliance, and I ask the Cabinet Secretary, what about the principles of equity, the principle of equality of sacrifice? I'll take an intervention.
Cabinet Secretary.
Will the member not reflect on that point, that one of the principles is around proportionate to the ability to pay, which is absolutely what we've followed on the new devolved taxes to Scotland?
Mr Leonard.
Well, I support the principle that the proportion of income taken in tax should rise with income, not be simply directly proportional. These are sound principles of fairness, so our position, the Labour position, is distinctive. We need a higher top rate for those earning over £150,000 a year. This week, we are not starting to consider a shadow budget based on normative principles. I haven't got time, I'm afraid, Mr Simpson. We are deciding on a real budget in which we can make positive choices. So I say to members of this Parliament from all parties, we cannot turn our back on the homeless, on our old-age pensioners, half of whom are living in fuel poverty this winter. We cannot turn our back on people desperately looking for work with unemployment climbing again. We cannot turn our back on the funding crisis in our National Health Service and the closure of services and on the hard-working staff who deliver the service in the NHS, because everyone should receive the best possible medical treatment free at the point of need. Neither can we turn our back on investment in our schools and colleges, in our people, because every young person deserves an education to fulfil their potential. So finally, this is a battle of ideas. It's a battle in which we are certainly on an opposite side to the Tories, and I fear we may be on a different side to the SNP too. So we will make our speeches and you may vote our amendment down. But we will keep making these arguments because they are the right arguments. And one day this minority in favour of them will become a majority. Equality, justice, real change. That's what the Labour Party is arguing for this afternoon, and we call on all good people of conscience, inside and outside this Parliament, to join with us.